May 2017. Wrestling journalist Dave Meltzer, in a Twitter exchange with wrestler Cody Rhodes, who had recently left the WWE citing his frustration with his current place in the company, noted that indie wrestling company Ring of Honor would never be able to sell 10,000 tickets for a single event, a feat no wrestling company apart from WWE had done at the time. This would be taken as a challenge by several wrestlers, including Cody for one, who had been working with ROH at the time since his leaving WWE, as well as the Young Bucks, a brother tag team who were incredibly popular on the indie scene and were also working with ROH, an international superstar and at the time current IWGP heavyweight champion for New Japan Pro Wrestling, Kenny Omega. This challenge would lead to an ROH co-produced pay-per-view titled All In, which would, in fact, go on to sell over 11,000 tickets and have a buy rate on pay-per-view of another reported 50,000. Months later, Cody and the Young Bucks would officially leave ROH to form their own wrestling company. And with the backing of Jacksonville Jaguar owner and longtime wrestling fan Tony Khan, All Elite Wrestling would be born.
Guys, it kind of feels like, it smells like, I don't know, it seems like this is a revolution.
And its first official event would be set in Las Vegas, named Double or Nothing, a play on the previous pay-per-view name All In. Soon a TV series would debut on TNT, the first wrestling program to air on the network since the days of WCW. More pay-per-views, more signings, more huge names in both indie circles, who would go from relative unknowns to household names, as well as former WWE superstars looking for more freedom to be actual wrestlers. AEW was riding high, and 2 years into its life, they would make a very surprising announcement. An AEW console game was in development. More surprising still, it would be made by Yuke's, who had previously been responsible for other fan-favorite wrestling games, like SmackDown Here Comes the Pain and the popular SmackDown vs. Raw series, and was working with WWE until very recently on the WWE 2K series, before parting ways with the company, citing various frustrations. Not much was known about the game at the time, other than the fact that it was described as a more arcadey wrestling game, shown up front with its cartoony-like art style, which was quite controversial for the time. But regardless, fans were excited to finally have another wrestling game to play, being relegated to only the same WWE game year after year after year, and that one Fire Pro Wrestling game that no one could figure out how to play.
Who am I? I'm this guy. Oh my god, this is mad hard.
Unfortunately, it would take another 2 years until we would finally see the release of AEW Fight Forever. Was it worth the wait? Let's find out.
Making his way to the ring, Jon Moxley.
Let's get one thing out of the way to start. While this is the first console game for AEW, I will try not to use that as an excuse as often as I can. Reason being is that Yuke's and THQ have been making wrestling games longer than some wrestling companies have even been in existence. That being said, I think it's fair to paint the game with that brush in some bits. Fight Forever seems like a time capsule of a certain period in AEW history, which has a lot to do with the development time. This shows itself in the roster especially, since it's rather limited compared to the roster many fans have called bloated. And if you're a fan of AEW now, you'll notice a lot of key figures missing. While it does include wrestlers like Abaddon and Lance Archer, two names I'm sure you've forgotten were even part of the roster until I just mentioned them now, it is missing many stars that wouldn't really even be considered that recent, such as the Acclaimed, Private Party, LAX, and the majority of Dark Order and the House of Black. But of course, the game is sure to include big main event stars that entered the company just recently, like Bryan Danielson, CM Punk, and even Paul White for some reason. Obviously, decisions like this are made for all sorts of different reasons, and could have something to do with contractual reasons and what have you, as AEW does work with a lot of wrestlers not exclusively signed with them. But you have to wonder how it is that they can still include Cody Rhodes, who in the middle of development left the company to go back to WWE, but could not include someone like Evil Uno, someone who's been a big voice and figurehead on the AEW Games YouTube channel. THQ has revealed plans to add more content to the game, and has already put out a season pass for more wrestlers, including a Matt Hardy pre-order bonus, which seems like a wasted move considering Jeff Hardy is included in the game already from the start, and he came to the company long after his brother. We also saw the first part of the DLC season pass released as Day 1 DLC, with the tag team FTR. And the only other wrestlers confirmed for the rest of the pass are Keith Lee, the Bunny, who seemingly will not be included with their partners in crime, Butcher and the Blade, as well as Hook and Danhausen, who are honestly the only DLC characters who make sense since they enter the company in that sweet spot, which would make sense for a delayed development. This may seem like an odd thing to focus on this much at the start of a review, and to such a degree, but it's the first thing you really notice when playing in exhibition mode. You can imagine mine and other such fans' disappointments when they discover that they can't play as wrestlers like Shawn Spears or Penelope Ford, but at least you can unlock referee Aubrey Edwards as an unlockable wrestler, although strangely the other ref in the game, Rick Knox, is not unlockable. But baffling roster decisions aside, let's move on to the gameplay itself. As mentioned, Fight Forever is pitched as more an arcade-style wrestling game. And if you're used to WWE games in recent years, it will take some getting used to. There are, however, a wide range of moves to perform and master, as well as a different momentum system. Instead of just building a special meter and performing signatures and finishers like other games, momentum will need to be built up and can be lost. So you could build up enough to perform a signature or finisher, but if you're not careful, you could get hit with a stray punch and lose it and have to regain control. This is a control system that's easy to learn once you get the hang of it, but it will take some skill to master, although some aspects seem too simple. For example, to kick out of a pin attempt requires simply mashing all the buttons, which seems simple enough, but there's no real way of seeing what you're doing is having any effect. There's no progress meter or some such to tell you that you're doing something right, or to encourage you to change things up. Just mash and pray, I guess. The game also is not above having the same kind of glitches you may expect from other wrestling games, but they are hardly game-breaking, although in the career mode we'll discuss later, you will notice a lot of texture popping and long hair going nuts during cutscene transitions. Game modes range from your standard one-on-one match, with special match types like Lights Out, which equate to Extreme Rules matches, to tag team matches and four-way matches. The game does not have the ability to do trio tag matches, with teams of 3 versus 3, which may be due to some kind of limitation, since there can't be more than 4 wrestlers in the ring at the same time, something that also shows up in the Casino Battle Royale mode, or AEW's version of the Royal Rumble match. We also have the ladder match with the goal of retrieving a poker chip hanging over the ring. But the big attraction is the Exploding Barbed Wire Death Match, a match type introduced in AEW at a Revolution pay-per-view. The match type works as a standard match, but if you get too close to the ropes, you'll suffer explosive damage, as well as damage from the barbed wire. There's also a countdown to when all the explosives around the ring will explode at once, which will not end the match, but merely damage whoever is closest to the ropes. It's a unique match type to be sure, and reminds me of other such unique match types WWE games used to have, like the Inferno matches of old. Another unique feature gameplay-wise is that all match types are intergender, which means that, unlike other such mixed tag matches in WWE games, where if a male partner tags their female partner, the other female wrestler must enter the ring, and hitting a female wrestler is an automatic DQ, men and women can freely have matches against each other in a variety of ways. This will certainly keep matchups interesting and help beef up the somewhat thin roster for a bit. Speaking of, Fight Forever also has the ability to create your own wrestler, and while the creation suite is not as sophisticated and varied as others, it can still give you the chance to make your own OC, as well as attempt to create other missing wrestlers you may want to add to your roster. However, as of now, there's no way to share your creations with others online, so those of you who are not as creative will have to make do following along with tutorials. With a created wrestler, you can also create your own entrants, which are very short in this game, so you'll not have to wait through long, overdrawn walks to the ring. But while they are shortened, you do have the freedom to customize, including pyro you can control while your entrance is going on, and adding different props and filters to make it seem more unique. It's a feature that shows just how arcadey this game is supposed to be, which rolls right into another discussion, another elephant that must be addressed.
And his opponent, Ryan Williams.
I mentioned this before, but the art style of the game skews more towards a arcade/cartoony style. While everyone looks how they're supposed to, and you can recognize every wrestler right off the bat, certain things are exaggerated and nothing is photorealistic, like you might see in a WWE 2K game. My response to this criticism is that it's frankly ridiculous. I mostly remember seeing this repeated by salty WWE fans who always seem to find something wrong with anything AEW does, despite it not affecting them in the slightest, as AEW is a wrestling company and WWE isn't. I would never say that the art style like this could never be criticized, but only if we were promised something on par or similar to WWE 2K games, and we're not given that. But the fact is, even with this different art style, it's a great looking game. All the wrestlers are recognizable, and apart from some standard graphic glitches, it's easy to get drawn in. This also translates to things like the stadium and crowds. With all that out of the way, let's discuss the career mode of the game, titled Road to the Elite, which you can choose one wrestler, including your own created wrestler, on their journey to reach the top of the mountain of AEW. This means traveling to different cities and competing in different matches on the weekly Dynamite shows and pay-per-views, as well as competing in extra matches on Dark and Rampage. In between, you'll be able to do things like train to increase your stat points and take time in between to sightsee and visit local restaurants. Doing these activities is not just something to add color, but it also helps you gain energy and stamina. You may also run into other wrestlers along the way, who will either comment on the ongoing storyline you're involved in, or take a selfie with you to add to your collection. Road to the Elite also has unique cutscenes for different storylines and scenarios. However, they're not voiced by the wrestlers. However, the wrestlers do voice themselves in various grunts and taunts in the game itself. This also means no commentary during matches, but you will hear Excalibur, Tony Schiavone, Taz, and even good old JR during certain cutscenes.
All Elite Wrestling's Dynamite is on the air, and we are sold out in Washington, D.C. This is episode number 1, the start of a revolution in pro wrestling.
Because the career mode is open to the entire roster, it offers a lot of replayability, especially since these matches also earn you credits, which can be used to unlock new poses, items that you can use to make your own stadium to play in, and other extra characters and alternate outfits. A lot of the post-launch content is unknown at this point, but there has been some signs that there could be more to come in further updates and DLC, and I hope that there's a good mix of both. Despite my problems with the game, I do think it's a fun one and gives a lot of opportunity to play. I myself will be taking time out of my busy schedule of work, videos, and other games to enjoy a few matches, especially since I want to unlock Owen Hart. That said, there's still too much missing from this game for me to really recommend the game at the price it is, unless you're truly a hardcore AEW fan. This does not feel like a $60 game. And although this may seem like an unfair comparison, you do get a lot more out of stuff like the current WWE offerings. Those games have a lot of flaws, and it is just a lot of the same with very little improvements added each year, but it still offers a lot. I understand that this is the first game, and I want this game to be good and future games to succeed. But if we gloss over issues like this from the start, we will soon run into the same issues that we have with WWE 2K, where we get more of the same with no real attempts to improve. For now, I'm having fun, and I want to make that clear, but considering all the game offers and doesn't offer, I have to give AEW Fight Forever for the PlayStation 5, a 3 out of 5.